What's up? In today's video, we're going to be talking about the top 5 secret beta male tests you might be secretly failing without even realizing. Most guys are. I hope you're not one of them. By the end of this video, you won't be one of them because I'm going to provide you the keys to the kingdom when it comes to understanding women and why they test you. Now, if you want an introduction to this video, definitely check out my last video after you're done watching this video on why women test men and how to pass her congruence tests. Definitely want to click that. We're also going to recap on it briefly at the beginning of this video, so you're going to want to stick around and watch the entire video if this even piques your interest during the recap, because in that last video I break down in a scientific manner exactly how to do this and why this happens. So no further ado, let's dive into this video. So just a quick recap, we're going to be talking about what a beta male test is. Now, beta male tests are also called, you probably heard this on the internet somewhere, qualifying tests, congruence tests, quality checks, or B tests, or crap tests. These are all the different terms that we've given these beta male tests that women give men to decide whether or not he is of value to her, and if you will take her home, throw her on his shining white horse, and they will ride off into the sunset together forever. Anyways, what is the why do women do this? What's the purpose behind these tests? Well, reason number one is it's to see whether or not a man's interior is in alignment with his exterior. It's how this guy looks on the outside matching up with how he represents and sees himself on the inside. That's what she's looking for. These tests also weed out the BSers, or guys that are fronting, that aren't really who they say they are. And this is why you'll continue to get tests if she's starting to doubt who you are. The third reason she does this is because it's an evolutionary function, gives her offspring the best survival and reproduction value. Her offspring, her kids, can't survive if she ends up hooking up and getting impregnated by a liar or a BSer. The kid's survival depends on it. It depends on her if she's looking for a provider, a guy that will stick around and take care of the family and the kids and provide the resources and the home and the support structure. If she ends up being tricked into thinking this player is a provider, then more than likely the kids that she has with a guy like that aren't going to survive. So it's very important. This is why she has this function evolutionarily in her. And reason number 4, it puts her in control of the frame. So here's the truth. You only get a test when she's considering whether or not she'll invest. So I have a funny little picture right here of this guy, this bum, or this nerd at a bar. And a chick here, obviously just don't mind the fact that she's overweight and unattractive. Let's just pretend this is a hot chick. This is the only cartoon that I could find. We'll just pretend for now. So this guy isn't gonna be getting a crap test by anyone at the bar. Now, I don't know this guy personally, neither do you, but just based on his body language and how he carries himself, you're only gonna get tests like this if she finds you attractive at first. It's not just gonna happen to some random guy. So why do you need to know this? Why is this important to you? Because you're a straight dude looking to interact with chicks in real life. This is not for guys that aren't out and about or thinking about interacting with people in the real world, that stay at home all day. This is for guys that are straight, that want to have a good time and interact with chicks and not be nervous and anxious around them and enjoy life. Congruence tests are also performed by everyone. It's not just women. You get men, coworkers, bosses, whoever it is. Kids will test you sometimes. It's not just women. So all these people in your life are constantly going to test your reality and see how strong your foundation is, especially if you begin to carry yourself in a different way than they've initially perceived you if they've known you before. So if you start to take on the characteristics and the qualities of an alpha male or someone that's confident, that is going to be constantly tested, and they're going to throw different things at you, all these people in your environment, to see how strong of a foundation and how congruent you are with that inner belief of that new adopted mindset that you have. That makes sense. And failing to learn these tests leads to confusion, anger, and stagnation. Stagnation because you freeze up and isolate yourself more and more in both interactions with women and in business. So this is definitely something that's happened to me. The more that I failed congruence tests, especially when I started my marketing business with different clients, the more that they felt like my reality and how secure I was in the product that I was offering their business. And if I wavered or if I hesitated on anything whatsoever, if I wasn't congruent with how I believed in the product and what it could do for their business at any given moment during the interaction or after the initial interaction, they'll back out of a deal with me. So women in business are very similar. Sex is sales. You've heard that. This is a key component of personal growth because underlying your failure of these tests is ultimately incongruence or lying to yourself. It's interesting, and you'll notice this as you get older. Women and different people come into your life for a season and test how strong your reality is. Just like a spotlight, they will shine on any imperfections that you have, pick up on the littlest tiny incongruences that you have in your personality, the little flaws, little insecurities. And if you let that define who you believe yourself to be, those people will keep picking at it over and over again until they leave you. And it's a devastating thing. It happens to guys all over the world. This is why I'm so passionate about this, because this has happened to me countless times over and over again. Anyways, to get a better understanding of what one of these tests would look like in a real life situation, I'm sure you can relate to this. Imagine a guy and a girl lock eyes at a venue. Both parties find each other physically attractive. So feeling cool, calm, and confident, the guy walks over to the girl. And their initial conversation is going so well, when out of nowhere, the girl hits him with one of the below. You're short. Why that jacket? You look really young. Or you're too old for me. Are you here by yourself? Do you always wear insert clothing item or accessory that you're wearing? So thrown off by the question, the guy tries protecting his ego and answers logically like he would during an interview. Guys, how common are these questions right here? I mean, if I had $1 for every time one of these questions was asked or one of these tests was brought up, it's amazing. For example, let's just say one of the most popular ones for our poor guy here, he's told for whatever random reason she throws the "you're too short" or "you're short" at him. Feeling defensive, he logically replies back to her. Actually, the average height for men is around 5'9", so I'm not really that short. Plus, height doesn't really matter as much as personality, am I right? Wrong, he failed the test. He's trying to defend himself by turning the conversation into a factual and logical debate, as if he's trying too hard to prove he met some arbitrary standard. Remember, women respond more to emotion than logic. She's in her feels, dude. She's not in her logical, rational mind. You have to speak to her emotions rather than giving her some calculated, logical answer. She's just looking to see if her comment flustered you, not whether or not it's accurate. She wants to see if it affected you emotionally, if it knocked you a little bit off your feet and made you unsteady because you find your height to be a limitation in your life, essentially. She wants to see if this superficial standard that society has put on short men has negatively affected you and impacts who you believe yourself to be. So it's not what you say that matters, it's how you respond that counts. This is so important when it comes to interacting with women. It's never what comes out of your mouth, it's the tonality and the emotions and the feelings that it inspires both in you and in her, and the dance that it does that counts. That's what really matters. So that leads us to ask, how should our guy have responded instead to this question? Think of it this way. How would John Wick have responded to such a silly comment? Well, he genuinely wouldn't give a fuck. He's John motherfucking Wick. He's not gonna care what some broad or anyone has to say about him. In fact, he probably wouldn't even acknowledge the comment. But if he did, he'd say something like, You're right, I wanted to give you a head start so you wouldn't fall for me too hard. You would say something smart like that, something witty off the cuff, where it shows that, you know what, I don't care, I'm confident in who I am. You can think whatever you want to think about me, but it doesn't matter at the end of the day because I know who I am, and that's what matters. Ultimately, it comes down to him acknowledging that regardless of what she or what anyone says, he's still the motherfucking man. He's still that guy, right? But you're probably thinking to yourself, I'm not John Wick, so how does this apply to me, right? Got the answer for you. It doesn't matter. It never matters. It doesn't matter if you're not John Wick. You still have as much value as you perceive you're capable of having. I love this image here. It's a baby lion cub looking at his reflection, seeing the greatness of what he's capable of. That's the potential that all of you have inside of you. You just have to see it and believe it in yourself and work towards it. It's in you. You just got to tap into it. So you probably know or you've seen that one guy. That guy that's physically unattractive, but still has a girlfriend or is the life of the party and dates a ton of chicks. He doesn't let what conditioning from Hollywood movies, magazines, ads, books, podcasts, or his acquaintances define his value. He knows his worth being just a guy, and he defines his own value. Likewise, you can define your own value. Don't let what society and the superficial world we live in define what is valuable, because it's always going to be the hottest woman, because women are the biggest consumers. Therefore, advertising, marketing, media, all this stuff is pedestalizing women and getting men to spend, so it keeps the economy going and it gets women to spend more money and feel better about themselves. That's a whole nother video. But just realize, you being a dude, you have innate value. It's just within you as a man. You are a force to be reckoned with. You are full of untapped potential, a lot of you, and you just haven't even dug into your capabilities yet. I believe in you. Just got to tap into it, and you got to find who you really are at your core. So a guy like this, he sets a standard that others must reach if they wish to engage with him. He's the hiring manager in his own life, and everyone else is a potential candidate that he may or may not allow on the job. Okay, he might hire them and he might not, but he values his time, he understands his worth and his value, and he doesn't mess around with people that are going to take away from what's valuable to him, which is his time and his energy and his resources. Likewise, you need to do the same. But if that means he has to be alone for the time being because others haven't met his criteria, he's still content. In fact, he even views the term loneliness in a positive light. It's a time to recharge and reflect. That sounds all good, but what about the other 4 tests you might get? Well, test number 2 is almost as popular as the "you're short" comment, and it's how many other girls are you talking to? And we're gonna go through a series of dumb responses and then smart responses. And I'm gonna explain briefly why one response is dumb and the other one is a smart response and what you should say. So the first and most popular dumb response is, I'm talking to 2 girls right now, but it's nothing serious. So why is this dumb? This is dumb because, number 1, it's a logical response. And it's also dumb because it leads to more questions about your dating life. She might also question whether she's just another chick you won't take seriously. Dumb response number 2 is you saying none. So why is this response dumb? Well, because it's logical, it's boring, and it shows you have no other girls interested in you. You have 0 social proof, which makes you seem more unattractive to the girl that you're talking to that's asking that question. A smart response instead would be, you're getting possessive already, spicing it up, being like, oh man, you're getting possessive already. You gotta say it with the smoothness, the suave, the savviness. It's gotta be confident, it's gotta be really you and authentic. Like, "Ah, man, you're already getting possessive over me." Or just my grandma and my mom, like say it like sarcastically. You know, you got to play with her emotions like we talked about. Why is this smart? Because there's no logic in this. It's all emotion, because it's going to guarantee she's going to smile, she's going to laugh. You're not answering the question. Just put you in the interviewer chair and her in the candidate chair. Like I talked about, you are the hiring manager. You hire and fire who is allowed in your life. You dictate who's let in and who's released because you value your time as a man. Number 5, this is smart because she realizes how stupid her question was, how ridiculous it is, right? Because it's none of her business. Okay, so this is all good and dandy, but what's another test, right? Test number 3 is she takes a call or text during dinner. This is a rough one, guys. Can't say that this has not happened to you because it's happened to all of us at one point. Dumb response number 1, and one that I always freaking made, is you not saying anything at all, even though it pissed you off and it bothered you. Why is this dumb? Because it shows that you think lowly of yourself. It also leads to worse behavior, more tests, more disrespect, more texting and calls and her stepping out on you while you guys are having an intimate experience, which is like dinner or you're out and about together that you're paying for. She's taking the time to interrupt that and go do whatever she's doing away from you, possibly talking to another guy and entertaining her call for after you're done feeding her. If you know what I mean, you know what I mean. So, because a lot of times women, what they'll do is they'll date one guy, they'll be out at dinner with him, and then after they're done having dinner with that guy, she's getting calls and texts from the other guy who's wondering how much longer until she can come over to his crib and they can seal the deal. So they have this dynamic going on sometimes. The third reason this is dumb is because you bottle up the disrespect that you feel and you lose more respect for yourself as time goes on. Because it pissed you off, you didn't address it, and instead you just absorbed all of that emotion and that bitterness. It's gonna eventually eat away at you. And dumb response number 2 that most guys do when it comes to a situation like this is they get emotional and they either grab her phone, call her out on it. So why is this dumb? This is dumb because it gets you emotional. It shows that she can fluster you, puts her in control of the dynamic in the relationship, and it shows that you care too much, dude. You're getting all emotional, you're letting her just flush you like that, and she's gonna continue to test you after this. So instead, here's how you should respond. Politely let her know that you didn't appreciate her taking a call or a text while at dinner, and if she does it again, just excuse yourself and get out of that relationship because she's clearly disrespecting you and doesn't value the boundaries you set. So why is this smart? Number 1, it sets a boundary with her, shows you're not gonna be a pushover, you're not gonna be a doormat, you're not someone that's gonna get walked over not only in this relationship, but with life in general, with other men, with the children, all of these things in society that are also applying pressure to you. If she can fluster you, she's thinking, what else can fluster you in the real world? Number 2, it lets her know that you value your time. You're not messing around here with wishy-washy women that aren't fully engaged in a moment with you. Because if she's texting or calling during dinner, she's disrespecting the time that you've set aside from work and from other things that you could be doing, other people you could be hanging out with, in order to spend that time with her, and you expect her full attention in that moment. And this also turns her on when you set a boundary like this, because a lot of guys are pushovers or doormats and won't set a firm boundary with her. So it definitely tickles her. Smart response number 2. Get up, excuse yourself from the table, walk outside, start the car, and head elsewhere. This is extremely smart. This is something I've done, and it's for the same reasons as above. All of these reasons, it's the exact same thing. This really sets a boundary, and a lot of times it'll turn her on and she'll end up actually coming over or engaging with you later on. Not guaranteed, but it's happened. Test number 4. She steers the conversation to something disinteresting. Oh, this is so annoying. And a lot of guys deal with this because they want to get laid. So they just deal with these boring conversations, these topics. We've all been there as guys. You're chatting with the girl, and she redirects the conversation to something you couldn't care less about. Something lame like stupid reality shows, the latest Hollywood scandal, or gossip about her girlfriend, her nail appointment, or worst of all, her ex or some other guy. Here's what I need you guys to really understand. This is so important and I really want to hammer this home. Any disinteresting conversational topics should be completely disregarded by you. Don't even acknowledge it if it's not relevant to you and her and what you're trying to do with her in that situation. The only exception to that is if you're genuinely interested in what's being said and you have something of value to add to it. But besides that, this is a test to see if you're just gonna be another gossip girl, a male groupie, an orbiter, someone she can make girl talk with, or if you're the dude that's taking her to PT, aka Pound Town. Don't be the guy that adds to the boring topic she's discussing just to get Pound Town. The smartest way to handle this is to change the topic. Say something like, cool, anyways, and then insert anything that you find interesting, that you find of value. Why is this smart? This is smart because it shows, number one, that you respect yourself. It also shows her that you only respond to things that you value. Anything else that's irrelevant and outside of things that you don't value, you don't acknowledge it because you don't care about it. You're not a people pleaser. That's what it also communicates. You're not just going to go with the flow because you don't want to ruffle any feathers and talk about something that you couldn't care less about. So it also shows you're not a male groupie or a gossip girl or a beta male orbiter. What it all boils down to is never feel obligated to engage in a conversation that disinterests you. If it's boring, if you couldn't care less about it, don't be a male gossip girl or a groupie and listen. She has thousands of guys that are already doing that. Don't put yourself in a category with those guys. You want to be Mr. PT. Here's the truth, guys. When you respond to her only when she talks about something you value, she'll naturally start to only engage in behaviors and topics that interest you. AKA, she's entered your frame. Test number 5, she hits you with, so what do you do for a living? So why does a woman ask a question like this? Well, first of all, this can be analyzed in 2 ways, but the underlying principle of why she even asks this is because she's showing that she can qualify or screen you. Like we talked about earlier, she's putting herself in the position of hiring manager and you're the interviewee. She's going to ask you questions to see if it can reach her standard and if you meet her criteria, and if you're going to supplicate and justify why you deserve to be with her, because remember, society pedestalizes her, so she views herself as above you in most cases. This should be analyzed in 2 ways. The first scenario is you're open to a relationship, and the second scenario is if you're looking for a short-term fling or a hookup. So if you're in scenario number 1, the rules are going to be different than if you're in scenario number 2. I'm going to talk about why this is. If you're in scenario number 1, you can answer sort of logically, but you don't want to embellish or downplay your job in either case. You can say something like, I do welding, programming, audio engineer, insert whatever job you do. Then pause and smile while looking at her. Embrace the silence. So why is this a smart response? Well, it keeps it short and simple, and it shows that you're proud of what you do without coming off as embellishing or boastful. You're also not saying too much, because saying too much can come off as compensating for something that you're lacking. It also keeps you open as a viable provider candidate if that's what you want. And I need to emphasize that. Only answer this question seriously and a little bit logically without embellishing if you're looking for something more long-term, where you wouldn't mind taking on the role of a provider or a long-term boyfriend or husband. But if you're in scenario number 2, forget everything I just said. Instead, you should answer playfully, confidently, and a little bit emotionally. What you don't want to do is answer logically. So if you're a fat dude and you're looking for a short-term relationship or a fling, or you're just out of shape, you can answer, I'm a male stripper at insert whatever local strip club. You've never heard of me? And then pause, look at her shocked while looking at her, kind of make it more serious and be sarcastic about it if you want to. But again, you want to embrace the silence, draw her in, really get her thinking that you might potentially be a stripper. It makes her laugh. She's gonna be shocked at first. We're gonna talk about why this is important. In another scenario, let's just say you're not a fat dude. You can look around a little concerned and then pull her in and you can whisper, I'm a producer of whatever trait that she has, specifically fetish, corn. You know what corn stands for. And then I'm looking for new actresses. Or if that's too edgy, you can literally just say yes, okay? Get her to think, jump through the first hoop for you. It puts her in a qualifying role instead of you being in a qualifying role. It puts her in the candidate seat and the interviewee seat instead of you. So why is this smart? It's smart because if you're a fat dude and you say something like, I'm a male stripper at insert local strip club, and you've never heard of me, it shows, number one, that you're witty, you're a funny guy, you're charismatic, you're off the cuff like that. And number 2, you don't take yourself too seriously. You're not letting your weight define your value. You actually embrace it and you find it kind of hilarious. And number 3, it gets her on an emotional roller coaster. It leads her from feelings of confusion. She's like, what? This guy's a male stripper, but he's fat. He's a fat dude. How is that possible? To then shock, like, what? They're hiring fat strippers now? And then laughter, joy, that's the following emotion, that's the final emotion. So it gets her on these roller coasters of emotions, which is always good when it comes to passing a test by a woman and hooking her. If you're a regular dude and you say, I produce, and then insert whatever trait she has, fetish, corn, you say, I'm looking for new actresses, and just pause and look at her. It shows cockiness, sprinkles in a little bit of humor, and it also gets her emotionally thinking about PT Pound Town, baby. So it puts that image in her mind a little bit. Or if this is a little too edgy for you, you can respond with yes. This is always good because it gets her jumping through the first hoop. It shows you won't be screened, that you're the screener, not her. You're the hiring manager. She isn't. She must meet your standards as a man. Subconsciously, it tells her you're here for PT and you're not a provider. So it doesn't matter what I do for a living because I'm not going to be providing for you, baby, or the offspring. So here's the key takeaway to all of this. Number 1, you're valuable because you're you. There's no one else like you out there. You have your own set of unique talents and skills, and you're created different than anyone else out there. Value your time, value who you are, and understand that there's only one of you out there. Love yourself. Number 2, tests are a sign of interest. So you wouldn't be getting any of these tests if she didn't initially find you at least physically attractive. The third thing is indifference is king. At the end of the day, if you forget all the other stuff we talked about in this video, indifference is king. You never have to respond or react to anything you don't want to. You are the hiring manager. It's not the other way around where you're qualifying yourself and you're looking to pass her test and jump through her hoops. If you don't want to answer a question, you don't want to talk to her about something, you don't even have to respond to it, you don't have to acknowledge what anyone says to you. Here's what really matters at the end of the day. No matter what society tells you, she's not on a pedestal above you. She's just some chick, she goes to the bathroom in the morning, she has her own set of insecurities that make her feel uncomfortable in different scenarios. She's not on this pedestal where you need to worship her like society will make you think. Number 5, never respond to any of these tests with logic. It's all emotions because she's an emotional creature. Point number 6, testing stops for one of 2 reasons. Reason number 1 is you've exposed that you're putting on a front and then she's figured you out and gotten a yick because you're a faker and a BSer. Reason number 2 is you've held true to your frame long enough that now she trusts you and she sees that who you are internally is who you project yourself out externally, and you actually believe in yourself. And once either of those things happens, then the testing ends, or at least it slows down. And point number 7 is the real you is always coming through. No matter what front or what facade you try to fool people with, the real you is always going to show through, and women will sniff out if you're being disingenuous with them or not, and they'll expose that and they'll leave when they get icked out and they find out you're a faker. So whether you're aware of it or not, your true self is always being subcommunicated to those around you, especially women who are more in tune with the subtlety of emotions and subcommunication. Click the like button, click subscribe, and comment below if any of these tests have applied to you and how you've dealt with these tests. Maybe there's more popular tests that I didn't address that you'd like me to make a video on. Let me know in the comment section below. Love you all. Have a blessed rest of your day. See you guys next week.